Hello and welcome to the Clock and Talk, an Arsenal podcast, and we're covering, for fuck's sake.
Good job me and Schwinn are a lot more prepared than you, because if we came on and went, oh yeah, we didn't watch the game either, we was on the piss, it'd be a pretty shit podcast.
Well, Mesut Ozil is the best number 10 in the Premier League.
Yeah, that all looks good on paper, but there's never been a football match played on paper, so it's not really worth much.
I'm going to make a bold prediction that Jack Wilshere will sign for West Ham United.
It's time to start watching football with your eyes. I think people listen to what the commentator's saying and have that as their own opinion, but if you watch what's going on, you'll see things a lot clearer.
Schwinn, who do you think is going to win the Golden Boot?
I think Alexis Sanchez might do a number on that this year.
Okay. Tony talks about a clock being right twice a day. Tez is right every day. 5 from 5, lads. Fucking beauty.
Welcome to another edition of the Clock and Talk podcast. This is Darren, your guest host for the week. You joined this week as usual by Tony.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Tony. But more excitingly, he's back. He's back. Joining us this week. He was sort of been injured. he made the subs bench and now he's making his appearance. Tez, you're back on the pod.
How are we, lads? How are we? I had to come back. This joint's a fucking mess, I'm telling you. Man and fucking nearly dying, and I'm thinking, I've got to come back and talk to these people. Like this Arsenal team, mate, they're an absolute joke at the moment. So, yeah, here I am.
So, Tez, how are you? Are you? I mean, you're sounding fantastic. Are you going to be back as a regular now? Are you going to be back hosting this pod?
Oh, look, eventually, obviously, that'd be my goal, Darren. But look, I'm getting there slow and steady, and getting stronger every day. Look, I want to thank yourself, Tony, and I know you boys have been giving Schwinn a bit of a fucking kick up the arse, but I know, he uploads the podcast and he does a little bit in the background. So I thank all you boys for everything you have done. I never expected to get out of hospital and see the Clock and Talk podcast still going. So shout out to you, lads. It was a great present to come out and
just listen
downloading on my phone.
Just listen to me and Tony moaning.
It's been good. Health-wise, look, a lot of people have messaged me. A lot of gooners have messaged me. I thank every one of you guys, and if I could ever have a beer again, I'd probably shout you a beer, and I'll sit there and have a lemon squash because it was a real pick me up. When you're in hospital and when you're sick, and to know that people are caring about you, and then I found out about a GoFundMe page, and that absolutely blew me mind that people were donating money in a GoFundMe page as well. So that was it's been a tough roller coaster ride, but it's been a really good one to know that everybody's out there has cared and sent messages and donated money, and I'm blown away. I'm speechless.
I just wonder, as you're saying that, Tez, I'm just wondering if what happened to you had happened to Unai Emery. Do you reckon he would have got anything from our supporters?
Prior to me going in hospital, I reckon he would have. But when I come out, it was a lot of Unai Emery out. So every time I jump on Twitter, and I'm thinking, what is going on? What's happened? What's he done? So it took me a bit to catch up on all the news and stuff. So yeah, look, look, I'm here. I'm alive, guys, and I thank all the people in the medical in the hospital and everything, and yeah, happy days.
No, it's great to have you back, mate. Really is. Tone, you were at the football. I guess you've been twice this week, like me. Seen a bit of a strange week. We took on the whipping boys of the Europa League group, Vitoria, and smashed them 3-2. And then I take it you were there. Of course you were there on Thursday. I met up with you on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said to you before, and I've said on here before, that I kind of like them games because they're just enjoyable. You don't really care what happens because it's usually, the young boys go out and work their nuts off and sort of have a bit of fun. And I don't know, I think someone must have listened and thought, you know what, I'm going to prove you wrong because it wasn't fun. The young boys didn't do what they've done in every other time they've had an opportunity this season. Obviously, 2 of them were hooked off at half-time and probably deservingly so based on performance. It looked like so far this season, everyone's kind of saying like that the first team's been a bit of a car crash and then that team's been a breath of fresh air. This week, they were doing their best impression of the first team. I don't know if they thought, well, this is how we get to start in the Premier League, play like complete idiots. And then they gave it their best shot at that. And it nearly worked.
Well, it's been to use your analogy, it's been a right motorway pile-up this week, hasn't it? I mean, what could have gone wrong? I mean, we did win on Thursday night. Not that it mattered too much because we were going to win that group. But they are the whipping boys. That was the game that we were going to win easily. And we still put out a very strong side and we just scraped it. But at least the good news from Thursday night was Pepe. We've said all along that he needs a couple of goals to get his confidence back. And he did. He came on with 15 minutes to go, 2 set pieces, 2 balls in the top and the bottom corner. And I don't know if you saw that game, Tez, on Thursday, but that sort of he's back up there now, isn't he? He came into the game on Sunday full of confidence.
Yeah, I did catch the game, and the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, who the fuck is Victoria and where are they from? This is the Arsenal football team, and who the fuck's Victoria? Like, where do they come from?
Well, just embarrassingly, I'm going to in the away leg next or in 2 weeks' time. There's 2 Vitorias. Did you know in Portugal? Because I booked my hotels at the wrong one.
I would have kept that for myself.
Yeah. Still, no. At least nobody listens to this. Thankfully I sorted it, and I thought they were in Lisbon, but they're actually about an hour north of Porto. I got stuck with their supporters. Tony, I met Tony in a pub on Thursday, and it was a Victoria pub. I don't know if you noticed that, Tony. Were they all in there when you were there?
I tweeted this after. I don't know if you'd have seen it. As I left the pub, they were all outside. Well, there wasn't many of them. There was, say, maybe 20 or 30 of them outside with a flare, singing. Obviously, I don't know what the words are, but the tune was Auld Lang Syne, and it was one of the most bizarre things I've ever heard. Like 30 Portuguese blokes outside a pub with a flare singing essentially a New Year's song in October on a Thursday, and it was just like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, I got caught. I was late. I met you there, and then I had to get down to the Blackstock Road to meet some other guys, and I got caught in their police escort to the ground, and there was a lot more flares and a lot of flags, and we were stuck, and I was stuck in that. It was good fun though, and they gave us a bit of a fright in the end, didn't they?
So Tony didn't shout your beer, Darren?
No, he didn't. No.
I've learned from Schwinn that, well, obviously I know Darren and Schwinn have met each other a few times and get on quite well. So, and obviously,
can I just say we know each other? Yeah.
Huh?
We know each other. I wouldn't have said the second part of that.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, if you've met him more than once, you obviously take to people that don't ever buy around. So I thought, well, stick to the custom, and there you go.
All right, let's get down to business. I mean, we're having a laugh, but it was a shocking week. We're at home to Crystal Palace on a Sunday, 4:30 game. We've dropped points on the Monday night at Sheffield United. We've scraped a last-minute winner against Victoria. And this was a chance to put it all right. We've got Crystal Palace at home. We knew we fucked up against them in the corresponding fixture last year. We see the side that he's selected. 3 changes from the Sheffield United game. He's brought in Tierney for Kolasinac. Keep saying that one wrong. Keep getting some shit. Ceballos comes in for Willock, I guess, and Lacazette comes in for Saka. Tez, you happy with that team?
Oh, look, I'll be honest. I have not seen much of Saka. It was obviously the weeks that I was in hospital, and I come out and I watched. Might have been Watford game, and I'm like, Saka is a starter now. Like, what has happened? I could be wrong, boys. It was one of the games that I caught when I come out of hospital, and I thought, oh, okay, that's a change. But look, the starting lineup, you boys have. I'm a little bit behind, but for me, it was a pretty good starting lineup. It was probably what I expected. Pepe, as we said, he come on 15 minutes against Victoria, so he was, he was always going to start. It was good. Lacazette, Aubameyang, Ceballos, he was, he's always been good. Guendouzi, I hear you boys giving him, at least a few points every week, so I take it he's been pretty good. And Granit Xhaka's been copping a bit of shit, so it's probably a lot of people are going to say, well, Granit's probably the one, but
I'm sure there's going to be.
All right.
I'm sure there's going to be a whole podcast on Xhaka. I think that's going to take up most of our things. Tony, I mean, for a change, I actually predicted this lineup in the pub. I thought Tierney would come in for Kolasinac. I thought he would do that, and I thought Lacazette would come in, and I thought Saka would drop out. Saka's been terrific in his first 2 or 3 games for us, Tez. He looks a natural, but he has gone off the ball in the last 2 games, and I think, Lacazette's obviously got his place back. Tony, I mean, it was a great lineup on paper, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit surprised that Lacazette came back in, because he was just utter shit on Thursday. And not only was he shit in terms of his touch and whatnot, he was also not himself. He didn't put in the, I don't want to say put in the effort because it sounds like a criticism. His work rate wasn't as good, and I don't know if that's because he's not 100% fit, or he just was having a lazy day, or he was sulking, or whatever it was. But I was a little bit surprised that he came in. I don't know if it was expectation or hope with Tierney, but I wanted him to start. I don't know if I expected him to. I still find it weird that and I said this to someone yesterday, he keeps playing midfielders that are progressive passers and no one in front of them for them to pass it to. I'm not going to make this about Ozil, but you need someone in them 10 spaces, shall we say. It doesn't have to necessarily be a number 10, but someone that takes up them areas, because all 3 of Guendouzi, Xhaka and Ceballos come short to get the ball and look up, and then they've only got the attackers ahead of them who tend to be in between sort of 2 banks of 4, or at least backed up against the defensive line. And it makes it very difficult to give them the ball. And I think it's a lot of that is why we're seeing this boring, laboured, side-to-side football. It doesn't really go anywhere. I mean, there's a stat that we haven't scored an open play goal in the league since Man United, I think it was. And obviously that was offside and then overchanged, and it came from a United mistake. And you can see why when you just look at the players we've got are all good players. I mean, I saw a stat today that Xhaka gets the ball into the final third throughout his time at Arsenal, where once every 6 minutes, which is an unbelievable stat. Like, Guendouzi is obviously very positive, goes forward a lot. Ceballos comes deep, gets the ball and goes forward, but they've just got no one to give it to. So that was probably, I had no issue with the players that he named in the lineup, but I saw the same failings in that how are we going to get the ball forward?
Well, he switched to a 4-4-2. Which, I think with playing 3 up front's a bit of a waste. We needed an extra body in midfield. But that leaves Ceballos and Pepe needing to defend, and not really their strongest suit.
Well, Ceballos tucks in so narrow anyway. It doesn't really matter where you play him, because he always drifts out left, but not touchline left, sort of narrow left, and comes really deep to get the ball. I think he's one of them players you could sort of name him anywhere, and he's going to go and do the same thing.
So, I like the lineup. I think everybody, was fairly positive. Lacazette's come back in. He's top player. We're getting to see Tierney for the first time. Ceballos in for Willock is a strong decision. It's a great attacking lineup. I asked in the pub before I went in on Sunday. Let me ask you the question. Try and take your mind back to before the game and all the shit that went on with it. Would you have taken, because it's all about the moment, points versus performance. That's a big argument that everyone's having. Is it about getting the 3 points every week, or is it about, playing well? Would you, and it's because it's weird how the game started, but would you have actually taken a defeat and a great performance, or would you have taken a shit performance again and 3 points? Tez?
Well, Crystal Palace were always going to be a bit of a worry. But when you see us go up 8 minutes, 2-0, I thought to myself, like, they're going to get one back. It was great when we scored got the two early goals, but I just had a feeling like Arsenal, knowing our defending, I thought they're going to get it. They got to get one back and guarantee this will finish a 2-2 draw, or they'll end up beating us.
Yeah.
I thought these useless cunts, so they fucking do my fucking head in. In answer to your question, mate, it was. Would I rather what was it again?
Well, there's been the argument performance over points. You know, that's been it. We've been playing shit all season, yet we've been picking up 3 points regularly. And thinking about it, with Crystal Palace at home, would you have taken? I mean, I'm walking down to the ground. I'm thinking, would it be nice to actually play really well? Like shut everyone up. Let's have a fabulous performance, even if we don't win. Or do we want another really shit performance but nick 3 points because it's important?
I'm happy with 3 points, mate. I don't care how I get them. When I look at the ladder, and think, well, there we are in 3rd or 4th position. We're not too far away. Forget about Liverpool. We're not too far away from City. I haven't got the ladder in front of me. I don't know what 3 points would have give us. Tottenham dropped points. Man United are playing like busted asses. Chelsea are the ones that are type of throwing a bit of a spanner in the works, as well as Leicester City, by memory of the ladder last week. So I just want the 3 points.
What about you, Tony?
For me, it's somewhere in between. Look, I'm a results man, so I would rather, if it was just a basic question, I'd rather get the 3 points. But I think there's playing shit and then there's absolutely riding your luck, which I think me and Schwinn made the point. I don't know he was playing devil's advocate, but me and Schwinn made the point a lot to you earlier in the season that it wasn't just shit. Like Newcastle was just shit. We was never going to lose that game. We were just didn't play well. Other games, I think we massively rode our luck, and luck can't last forever. So I know that obviously you're going to have the criticism of say, but when we was playing shit and winning, you was moaning. But I don't mind playing shit and winning. I'm all for that. If we won 38 games 1-0 and only had 38 shots on target all season and won them all 1-0, I'd be fucking delighted. But when you're massively riding your luck like we did earlier in the season, that's when it's a problem for me. So if the answer is black and white, I'd rather get the 3 points. But as I said, it's a difference between there's a bad performance and just being lucky.
So we go into the game, we're 2-0 up in 10 minutes, and it felt then, I mean, there were 2 scrappy goals. Don't tell me we came out of the blocks really quickly and we were playing fantastic football. We had a series of corners, they were both scrappy. Socrates gets one, Luiz gets the other, and we find ourselves 2-0 up in 10 minutes. And it's got to be that game, hasn't it, that we can then relax, start playing the football, no pressure, and go on and beat someone 4 or 5. Isn't that how it felt? It was so easy.
I didn't really think that because we didn't, as you said, they were 2 scrappy goals. I mean, they were great deliveries from Pepe, but we didn't, even at the end of the game, we didn't really create anything. Like, we from corners, we were dangerous all game. It's the most un-Arsenal performance ever in that we was only dangerous from set pieces. Didn't ever look like scoring from open play, really. I think we had 1 or 2 shots on target from open play that in the whole game. So, and
all of our chances fell to our defenders. Chambers,
apart from
Luiz.
I think they had one and Lacazette had one from open play, and I think they were the only ones in the whole game.
So we're 2-0 up, we're cruising, everything's going well, and then we get our first instance of VAR. Chambers gets twisted back and forth by Zaha, who should have been an Arsenal player in the summer, and it's a penalty. But no, it's not a penalty. It's a booking for Zaha, and we get away with one. And then it goes to VAR, and it's changed. I haven't seen this. I've only seen it at the ground. I guess from listening to comments, it was a penalty, was it? Has anyone seen it?
Yeah, I mean... go on, Tez.
No, sorry, I was just going to add, I think Zaha, even Lacazette to a point, Zaha's one of the best at milking these penalties. He gets himself in the position where the defender, he almost, not milks it, but he's just brilliant at getting a penalty in them areas. That's all I was going to add.
Yeah, just so I'm that side of the pitch, and all of my mates sit in that corner. So I sit near the halfway line, but my mates sit in that corner. No one around me celebrated when they gave the dive. We all knew it was going to be overturned. We could see it as clear as day. And then I spoke to my mates at half time, and I said sit in that corner, and they said it was exactly the same there. Having seen it back, it isn't as much of a penalty as I thought it was, but Chambers dangled the leg. And I think what Tez means when he says Zaha is great at winning these penalties, he could have avoided the leg, but there's absolutely no incentive to do so. If you dangle a leg like that, someone like Zaha, 99% of players are going to go over it. But for me, it was a stonewall penalty. Interestingly, Mark Clattenburg, who we know used to be rated as our best ref and is now fucked off to Dubai or somewhere, said that he thought it was a dive and VAR was wrong to overturn it. I don't agree with him. I'm just looking because we have some guys called UREF, an app that are sending us sort of insights into the game, and they've got like loads of fans vote on polls to say whether they think it was a penalty or not. And I'm trying to find, I think it was only 59% of fans agreed, and I said to them when they sent me that I thought it'd be a lot higher. I thought it'd be in the 80s agreed that it was a penalty, but I don't know how much fan bias comes into that.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what fans you ask, isn't it?
Yeah, I said that to them. They said their algorithm's pretty good at getting rid of the fans of both teams to try and get rid of the fan bias, and then it in essence only asks neutrals. But is a Tottenham fan really going to be neutral, or is a Brighton fan who are for some reason Palace's rivals going to be neutral? I don't know, but I was very shocked at 59%. As I said, in the ground, I thought it was 1,000,000% a penalty. And having watched it on TV, I still think it's a penalty, just not as clear as I thought.
So we're going at half time.
Go
on, Tez.
Darren, sorry, I just want to ask something. I listened to you boys last week, and Tony, you were talking about the referee. There was something about a certain group who, with the overturn of the VAR, and then there was another certain group who said never turn it, never, rule against my decision.
Yeah.
Atkinson, was he a part of that group? Or?
So apparently he was the leader of the group that said never overturn my decision. But there's been a very, very clear, and if you've watched other games this weekend, there's been a very clear change in how they've used VAR this weekend. I think it hadn't overturned a decision all season, and I think it overturned 7 this weekend. So there's been and the high bar seems to have completely vanished. So all season they've said, high bar, it has to be absolutely blatant, and even then they've not overturned them. And then this weekend, they've just been overturned for absolutely everything. I mean, we're going to go on to it later, but even the Everton-Brighton game, for me, it was never a penalty in a million years. It got overturned. Hudson-Odoi got overturned, and I thought it was a dive, but we just haven't seen that at all. And then to go from 0 in 90 games to 7 overturned in 10, they've not announced it, but there's been clearly, like anyone who's watched enough football will know there's clearly been a change in the way they use VAR, and it started this week. And it will change again because they can't continue how it was this week. This week was just silly. They've gone from one extreme. They've gone from a ultra high bar. Who was it? I listened to a commentator sum it up, and they said they've gone from a pole vault to a world champion standard limbo. That's where the bar's gone this week.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just get through the game because there's the two talking points, obviously, are VAR and Xhaka, amongst other things. But we come back in the second half. There's still no energy in our play. It's still fairly ordinary. And then they walk through us, dance down the side, put a crossover. David Luiz was just completely caught watching the ball, wasn't aware of the man, and IU scores, and suddenly it's 2-2. And I don't know how you felt being at the ground there, Tony, but it was just, we're 2-0 up, we're cruising, and suddenly now we're in a competition.
Yeah, I mean, that goal was coming. I don't think there was any surprise. I don't know about your side of the ground. My side of the ground, they made it 2-2, and it was, kind of expected it, because we came, you say we was come out with, we still had no energy and whatever at the start of the second half. I actually think we came out worse. The first 10 minutes of the second half, we were battered. And the goal just was the end of that period. You can smell goals when you watch enough football. You don't have to be at games, but you kind of know when a goal's coming. You might not always be right, but you generally get the idea. And it was coming. We were just waiting to concede.
So where do you want to go next? Should we go to the substitutions or should we go to the VAR?
Got subs is first, isn't it? Just go in the order.
It is. It's just that. All right. So 61 minutes. The manager deems it right to withdraw our captain, Granit Xhaka. For those of you, I'm sure you've all seen it. The reaction in the ground when Xhaka's number was put up was one of how should we put it? Of laughter, of cheering, of joy, of applause. The ground really did erupt with a message that was saying to Xhaka, "Fuck off, we're glad it's you." Xhaka then walked off as slow as he possibly could walk, gets halfway to the touchline and then starts to goad the crowd. Obviously, the stick then goes from laughter and applause to some booing. Xhaka then cups his hands to his ears, letting everybody knows. I think if you can lip read what's said on the screen, he says "fuck off," and then he strips his shirt off, throws it down, and storms down the tunnel. Is that a fair analysis of what went on?
I'm still the only bit I will say. I'm not sure if he actually threw his shirt because he took it off, and because I've seen some people say, well, had he thrown his shirt, it definitely would have been the end. And no camera angle I've seen, it could have still been in his hand. It doesn't really make much of a difference, but just trying to be as accurate as I can. As I said, he might have thrown it, but I've not seen that.
Well, he took his shirt off and
yeah, he definitely did.
You know. So where do we stand on this, Tez? I mean, it's our club captain. He's the target of our fans for the abuse, whether that's right or wrong. I mean, me and Tony have debated this regularly over the last few weeks. I think both of us think it's a little unfair, the amount of stick he's got. It's him that the fans have decided to go to, and when he's not there, they'll pick on someone else. That's Arsenal fans these days. But he did react quite badly.
Look, and a lot of people know that, you know, they've listened to me over the last couple of years on this podcast, and they know I'm a fan of Granit Xhaka, but I'm taking, you know, I'm not going to be as biased here, but at the end of the day, if you kick a dog every day, eventually it's going to fucking bite. And I'm sorry, I've seen lots of fans tweet out, "Oh, how dare you tell me to get fucked," and all this shit. Mate, if some fan kept telling me every fucking week that I'm useless, that there's been well, it's not accusation. It's been reported that at over his time at Arsenal, he's been sent death threats on social media. He hasn't had a really good time with the fans. Now, okay, his performances are, you know, I don't know, they're not up to some people's standards, but he could be better. Don't get me wrong either. Like, yeah, okay, I understand he's got weaknesses, but you as a fan, what gives you the right to scream at a player to get fucked and send racial abuse and death threats and all this shit that he's copped over the last couple of years? And what, you expect him just to stand there and take it? Like, I'm sorry, but would you say that to him? Would you say that to him, or would you say that to a 6-foot bodybuilding fucking big ass cunt in the pub? I bet you fucking wouldn't. You wouldn't say it to his face because you'd probably get fucking cracked fair on the fucking chin. So I just don't understand why all of a sudden he responds and Arsenal fans are going, "Oh, fuck, how dare you respond?" Fuck off, cunt. Shut your fucking mouth to start with. Like, that just pisses me off, how people, they seem to think they can fucking say whatever they want, but when a player or somebody responds back to them, they cringe like fucking little rats. It pisses me, that does.
Yeah, I tend to agree with a lot of what you said there, Tez. Tony, your take on it?
There's so many points here. First off, fans are disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, there's no defending that. And look, I am part of that fan group. I personally didn't cheer. You know what's coming. And also, I thought it was the wrong sub. I don't think he should have come off. I think, again, look, I've got a lot of criticism of Emery, and I think that was one of them. He was trying to pander and get the fans on his side because he was nowhere near the worst player on the pitch. the way the game was going didn't suit taking him off. But then I kind of have the tiniest bit of sympathy for him, because I actually think he was only walking to give Aubameyang the armband, and then the booing started. And then from then on, Xhaka is purely to blame, because I think the ironic cheers come up and he kind of not brushed it off, but he was okay with it, walking to Aubameyang, and then the booing started because he didn't sprint straight off. So then he's just thrown the armband. And then, yeah, as I said, look, from then on, he is an idiot. I kind of half agree with Tez that if you have a go enough, then he's going to have a go back. But just get off the pitch. He brought it on himself. Look, you're not helping yourself, cupping your ear, waving your arms about. He's not doing Saka any favours who's coming on for him. Walking straight down the tunnel's not helped. There's reports that he just went straight home. Obviously, we don't know how true that is. Left the ground before the game even finished, apparently. There's so much wrong, and I think as fans, we're just getting on the blame Xhaka side. And again, I'm not defending him because what he done was wrong, but I don't think he's as to blame as people are being made out, or I think there's more to the other side of it. Where we go from here is a very, very messy situation. It's funny, I met my friend I said that sits in block 6 in the corner. I went to the pub with him after the game. And he said Torreira was on the side crying, and he didn't know why. He didn't link it to that. And then Stuart McFarlane tweeted last night, the club photographer, that Torreira was in tears at the abuse that Xhaka was getting. You've got to think, like, it's funny that everyone seems to want to say, oh, well, you're our captain, you're our leader, show some leadership skills. You're a supporter. Support the fucking club, which no one does. It's not only damaging Xhaka, which it clearly is. He's clearly lacking confidence. When you've got other players crying, there's reports 3 players went to his house last night to console him. He's obviously got friends in the squad. So you're not just damaging one player. And you might go, oh, well, I want him off to get better players on, so I'm actually supporting the team more. No, you're not, because that's his friend. Them players are his friends, whether you like it or not. They voted him captain. We all know that. That was released in the press a million times, and people criticise that procedure. So everyone knows it happened. So you're... Like, I would feel it. Even if I was with my group of mates and someone was there giving one of them shit and singling it out, I would feel upset and pissed off. And I wouldn't want to perform for the fans if they're abusing my mate in that circumstances. And you can say they're professional all they want. If someone's taking it out on your friend, your colleague, someone who you spend a lot of time with, it's going to affect you. I think people seem to think, booing Xhaka only affects Xhaka. It's just absolute nonsense. And look, again, I've gone on a rant about fans. Xhaka is to blame, but what the fans are doing it's nothing short of disgraceful. As I said, you want him to, he's a leader, show leadership skills. You're a supporter, support. End of.
Well, Tone, I think you stole my thunder a bit. I want to talk on this myself. I won't go on too much because I'm sure we'll face it again in the questions. We've got lots of people who've got their own opinion on this. Tez, as we know, is a Xhaka fan, and I think me and you understand that he ain't as bad as people have been making out. But I think the one point that I really want to get over to Arsenal fans irritate the life out of me. They did when we were trying to get rid of Wenger. We're now a year and a bit into Emery. It's a club that's got a fan base that's just built on hate. And I just think that sometimes we've got to step back and understand that we are supporters of this football club. And there's actually a great joy in supporting a club rather than just finding enemies within it. The cheering when a player is substituted was disgusting, disgraceful. I think there's a bigger picture here. We're always talking about it, even in the questions we got today. Who are we going to have as the next manager? Who would you replace Ozil with? I know these are some of the things that are coming in the questions. What people don't seem to understand is who's going to want to come and play for this football club? Who is going to come and want to play for a club that boos off their captain when he gets substituted? Who is going to want to play for this great club, this classy club, when you've got such a shit fan base? Now, I'm not going to defend what Xhaka did when he went off. I was irritated. When I heard that abuse that he got when his number came up, I thought it was embarrassing and disgraceful. And then Xhaka compounds it by going as slow as he possibly can. We're trying to win the fucking game. You've been substituted, run off the fucking pitch, shake hands with Saka and get on with it. Not stroll like you're a fucking superstar prima donna. You're an idiot for doing that. Then goading the crowd's going to make it worse. But the fans started it. And the fans are going to find that this club that they love they're going to start to have a club where players aren't going to want to play for this club anymore. And why would you? Why would you want to play in that cauldron of hate?
Just to add quickly, because I forgot to say it just then, you get all these people going, oh, can you imagine Adams or Vieira doing that? Vieira did do that. The difference is you didn't hate Vieira, so no one even bothered. No one even remembers it. Vieira got sent off in a game and threw his shirt on the floor on the pitch and walked off. But so all these people going, oh, Vieira wouldn't do that. Where's the proper leadership skills? He did. The overriding fact here, obviously Xhaka is wrong, but people are blinded by hatred. And our fan base at the moment is... There's no way to say it. We're a bunch of self-entitled pricks. We really are. Like, well, we don't like the manager, have a bit of a protest, we'll get rid of him. I'm part of that. Guilty. We don't like a player. We feel like, oh, if we boo enough or just make the place toxic enough, we'll make the change and all of our problems will go away. And how many times have we said on here, there's always a boo boy. It never ends. Someone, whoever we hate, goes out, and then they just automatically, the next week, there's someone else. It's like Mustafi went out, and then it's Xhaka straight. There wasn't a gap. It was like, oh, Mustafi gone, next week, Xhaka. After Xhaka's gone, we've said on here so many times, who's next? Because there will be someone. And it's just, I don't recognise this.
I just want to ask.
Cheers.
Yeah, I just want to ask, Tony, is it, and no disrespect to people in London or the UK or anything, but is it a split fan base as opposed to social media to people who fans go to the ground? Because I noticed the fans at the ground were booing, and I presume majority of them would be locals, as opposed to when I seen social media, there was lots of people going to the fence for Granite. I'm just wondering whether it's a bit more, is something going on in the ground that
all I will say, Tez,
us others don't know.
Tony, while you're thinking about it, what I will say, I was really surprised by the reaction of the fans, because I thought it was very much a social media thing. And look, the social media reflects the ground, and the ground, the fans in the ground reflect social media to a certain extent. That is what it is. It is a window. I was surprised at how bad the abuse was he got when his number came up, and then he compounds it and makes it worse by his reaction. So I think it's just I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Xhaka's hated. People are told Xhaka's shit. Everyone's told Xhaka's a cunt. Half the people don't even watch football. Yeah, I mean, I've just spent 3 or 4 years in India, and I got irritated with fans who would go, that's it, I'm not watching until the end of the season, until we get rid of Wenger. And then they would comment on things. Well, if you don't fucking watch the football, how can you have an opinion? And that's where I think we are. We've just got a strange club mentality now, where people are just more interested in what's bad than what's good. People are more interested in who they can slag off than actually in supporting. Anything to add, Tone?
Yeah, I mean, just on your point, firstly, I wasn't surprised because I've seen it happen twice already this season at away games. And in general, what tends to happen, it happens first at away games and then it spreads to the home crowd. That happens with a lot of things. When a player first starts getting a hate away, and then it ends up the opinion of everyone. In answer to Tez's question, a few years ago, I remember saying on here, actually, that the opinion was always very different in the ground than it was on social media. I remember in Jack's last year, everyone in the ground loved him because he's a local boy and blah, 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 blah. And on Twitter, he was just getting shit non-stop. And I actually remember saying that on here, that it was like two different worlds. I think recently, and obviously I'm talking very recently, maybe the last 6 months, they're pretty much the same place. And like the opinions seem to be the same. I know what you mean about you've seen people defend him, and I've seen some, but I've seen a lot more hate him or whatever you want to, maybe hate's a strong word, but bash him, criticise him, call him all sorts.
Yep.
There has been some people to defend him, but I think the vast majority are not, and that was the same in the ground. As I said, I don't know when the change happened, but it seems like recently the fans in the ground and social media are of a very similar viewpoint, where they weren't, said probably even a year ago. They were completely different.
But that's why I was surprised, though. That's why I was surprised, because I've noticed there is generally a difference. The social media is a little bit more outrageous. They're a little bit more on point, and the people within the stadium tend to be a little bit more supportive. That's why I was surprised, because that reaction was Twitter all in one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I said I would have been if I hadn't seen it. I think it was Watford first with Sheffield United the other day. I've just seen it 2 or 3 times already, but the first time it happened, I was shocked.
Still, things couldn't get any worse, could they? Because then we go up, we make those changes. We also have Tierney goes off, Kolasinac comes on to replace him, and then we score a pretty damn good goal. Sokratis gets another one. We're all happy. We've been actually putting some pressure on, playing probably the best we've played all game. Quite a few chances created, and then. Do you know what? I mean, this is where I need to talk about VAR. I'll let you both have your say, but let's tell you, I saw the goal. I'd had a few pints. I went up to use the restroom, for want of a better word. I'm in there for 3 or 4 minutes. I come back down, and they're still on the centre circle. They haven't kicked off again, and then it gets disallowed. 3 or 4 minutes of my life. What the fuck is going on with that decision? Tony.
So the only, just for the sake of being correct and stopping you getting shit, I watched Match of the Day 2 last night, and they said it was 2 minutes between the ball hitting the back of the net and getting disallowed, or 1 minute 56.
Yeah, I don't know how long I had a piss for. Let's say it was a 2-minute piss.
Yeah. Do you know, before it went in, before the ball fell to Sokratis, I shouted penalty. I thought there was a foul on Chambers, if anything.
Yeah, me too. That was my side, yeah.
Yeah, and just had no inkling that it was going to get disallowed. I think it was Milivojevic, however you fucking say it, like his arms go up in the air as if he'd been fouled. I thought there's absolutely nothing in that. They went to VAR and I thought this is not good. Especially like the high bar is still in our mind because, as I said, it's not been announced they've changed it, and it was only this week that they very clearly have. So I just thought there's no way, even if there is a tiny foul, it's no way clear and obvious. And then I think everyone around me was the same. It was like, oh, you know what, it's just a standard check. And then it starts taking a while and you think, oh, God, here we go. There actually must be something to look at because it's taking long. It's not just your usual 10-second check and then blow the whistle and get to go. And then, obviously, it's disallowed. The crowd goes fucking wild.
See, Tony, I'll take, you said to me the other day, you took exception when I said that we will stop celebrating goals, and I understand that we'll still celebrate. And you brought up the example that you're up at Old Trafford, and when the goal was, went to VAR and then was given, everyone went mental. I understand. That's human nature. It's like the Palace fans yesterday went fucking mental when the goal was disallowed. But it ain't about watching football. I don't want to celebrate waiting 2 minutes for a sign on the screen to say goal or no goal, or penalty or no penalty, or red card or no red card. It isn't what we go to football for.
Look, I'm, as I said, that this, I'm getting more against VAR every week, but the argument I'm having with people, I think it's a very lazy argument when people say, it's stopping people celebrating goals. Because when that Sokratis ball hit the back of the net, believe me, I celebrated harder than pretty much any other goal this season. So this is not me defending VAR. I just think that the one criticism people seem to use the most is probably the one that isn't true. Like, as you said, you ran up and went for a piss. VAR didn't change that. You celebrated the goal as you celebrated the goal.
Yeah,
this is not me defending VAR.
But I guess what I'm saying, we're in the early days of it. We're 10 games in. You imagine this over the course of the next 10 months of the season, next 8 months of the season. Every time that goes in, look at that. There was no reason for that goal to be disallowed. No reason whatsoever. I've watched that one 6 or 7 times today. Nothing. There's possibly a foul on Chambers. There's absolutely no reason. It's a subjective decision. It's not an offside. It's not a handball.
I don't even think it's subjective.
No, but all right. But the word, it's subjective. It's a subjective decision. It is one man's decision over another. It's not a clear black and white decision. It's not a ball going over the line. It's not a handball with the new nonsense handball rules. It's not somebody in an offside position where they can go down to these stupid millimetres where they're giving people offside. This is a decision that is made by one person. Nobody appealed for it. Nobody claimed. that there was a foul. It was the referee didn't see anything. No Palace player complained about it. It is an absolute nonsense that our game is now being ruled like this. Those who have listened to me on podcasts for the last 2 or 3 years know I am so against VAR. I have been from the very start because I don't think we need it. I like black and white decisions. I like over-the-line technology. But when it's a subjective decision, you can have 10 blokes in a pub argue about it all night long. This is not helping. This is just the death of football. And the fact that it takes so fucking long, and as a supporter in the fucking ground where you have no idea what's going on, and I know the audiences for television are multi-millions and we're just a few paltry fucking 50, 55, 60,000 people who spend our 40, 50 pounds a fucking week to go and watch football. Don't care about us. We just stand there and look at a screen going VAR decision. It's nonsense. And it is the death of football.
On Match of the Day,
it's good to listen to Darren fire up, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. He's endless. On Match of the Day 2 yesterday, they absolutely hammered that it's the first people I think I've heard speak up for fans. They absolutely hammered that the fans don't get to see anything, and that has to be looked at. I think the VAR rules are going to be changed again from this low bar to something else, and apparently, I don't know how true this is, the argument against going to the TV screen is it takes too long. I think it'd be quicker because Atkinson can walk over to the screen, look at that, and make his decision.
Where would do you know it's, the decision? Sorry, Tess. Go on, carry on, Tess. You go, right. Tess.
No, sorry. I just wanted to add, and Tony knows me thoughts on VAR, and I said this last year. I said every week you're going to be discussing an incident or a goal that was disallowed about VAR, and here we are. We're discussing this. I've watched NRL, who Aussies know as rugby league. You guys know it as the NRL. They've had this technology in for years and years and years, and still have not fucking got it right today. That's what happens every week. The headline will be video technology fucked up again, basically. The A-League, similar thing. It's been going for 10 years. They've had VAR in for a good couple of years. Every fucking week there's an incident that just we all discuss. Oh, was it a goal? Wasn't it a goal? Serie A, Bundesliga. I don't watch a lot of that, but the Serie A, same fucking thing. The only place that I ever seen VAR work well was the World Cup. That's the only time I've seen it work well.
I'm glad you said that because this was going to be my reply. The problem is we have seen it work in football. So I came at the start of the season. I was all for VAR, and you'll know that. And obviously, it's out there on the internet, so I can't change my tune now. I didn't say it, but I did also say at the time we need to operate the way it was at the World Cup because no one can name a bad decision that was made in the World Cup that was down to VAR. Look, the penalty in the final was farcical, but the ref gave it. So what can you do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know
what these other guys are doing, Tony.
The problem is we've seen it work near on perfectly, and then I don't know if it's the English being English because we seem to do it all the fucking time. That we go, oh, we're not copying them foreign blokes, we can do it better ourselves, and absolutely fucking butcher it. We've got the worst VAR system. I mean, I don't know about Australia because Australian football isn't showed here because literally no one gives a fuck. But you watch Germany, you watch Italy, you watch Spain. Our VAR system is the worst because we didn't want it initially, so we're 2 years behind everyone else. But instead of taking their findings and going, okay, this is what worked, this is what didn't, we've gone, oh, we're going to come and do it our way. It's like doing research and then going, oh, fuck it, we're going to do what we was going to do anyway. There was just no point. We should have gone in, if we're going to do it the way we're doing it, we should have gone in on day one. Because then at least you've got an excuse. Now they've got examples to work off that they've just gone, oh, no, fuck that.
Yeah, but the other problem is if you guys have got, and look, I'm not saying that you're wrong because I don't know, but as you were discussing last week on the podcast about that split referees, that's a fucking mess to start with. Like, if you've got referees who are going, oh, fucking don't ever overturn my decision, it's just a fucking mess.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the referees are run by the worst ref, or is in the most, look, let's be honest, he must have been fucking taking money. They're being run by the worst ref ever in Mike Riley. There's no way he wasn't match fixing. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that. There's no way he wasn't very, very bad at refereeing. And now he's the boss of the referees. What chance have you got?
Right,
It's crazy. And I heard Darren talking about like 10 blokes or something in a room or something. One thing that they need to do is just make it independent. I think you mentioned it, Tony. Get a fucking bloke who just independent and who said, fuck you, ref. This is my decision. I'm making it, and that's the only way to fix it.
The thing that compounds the issue for me.
Aaron, can I just ask quickly? Did you hear where you were in the ground over the speakers, the VAR conversation?
No.
Okay, so for the first two, for the Zaha penalty, and then there was a check and a handball from we had a shot block just after the Zaha penalty, in complete error, we could hear the VAR guy talking. It's very faint and very quiet. We could hear them talking over the speaker, and then someone messaged me last night on Clock and Talk, who sat in the upper tier somewhere, I'm not sure where, and they said throughout the game, every time the VAR spoke, they could hear what he was saying, but they couldn't hear what the ref was saying back.
Funny enough, I could hear that. You couldn't make it out. Let me just say that you couldn't make it out. Yeah, it was throughout the game. It was like somebody was chatting in the background, on the speakers,
Yeah, so someone in the upper tier said they could hear it loud and clear. As I said, for us, it was only the first two instances on my side of the ground, and you could hear it talking, but I guess it was maybe because of crowd noise, we couldn't hear it. If everyone was quiet, we probably could have heard what it said, but it was complete. It must have been done in error. But
so it doesn't come on a TV screen at the end of the ground?
No, that's what I said to him. The guy asked me, did I hear that? And is that a new rule or something? And I said, look, that must be an error because you don't even hear that on TV, and VAR is obviously fucking made for the TV.
Yeah, it says in the ground, all you get is the screen saying VAR checking decision. That's all you get. You don't see it.
It doesn't show the actual replay or anything.
No, nothing at all. It will just for 2 minutes VAR checking decision, and we all stand around, or in my case, go for a piss. We just stand around, no idea what is going on. I mean, the thing that compounds it for me, and let's get on to the questions after this because we could be here all night talking about VAR. My other hate of, I've always hated VAR, and time wasting is another thing that we get used to at Arsenal, at the Emirates, at Highbury, where teams aren't expected to beat us, but when they've got a chance of getting a point or 3 points, they go into time wasting mode. Now, explain this to me. In the second half yesterday, okay, let's say it was 2 minutes for VAR. Yeah, 2 minutes for that decision. There was also 5 substitutions, which is like 30 seconds of substitution. There's another 2.5 minutes. There was players went down with head injuries. So the trainers were on, the medical staff were on to assist Lacazette and whoever their player was for another minute or two. Then there was the time wasting. So forget that. 2.5 minutes of substitutions, 2 minutes of VAR, 2 minutes for the trainers being on the field, and then the time wasting from their goalkeeper. And yet we still, that's never added on. And I know we're never going to get 8, 9, 10 minutes added on at the end of the game. But if you're going to stop the game for VAR, if you're going to stop it, fucking at least let us supporters who are paying our fucking money to watch a game of football, let us at least have a chance to watch a fucking 45 minutes of football. Fucking gets on my nerves.
I don't think that's really down to the VAR, to be honest. I think with time wasting, and I kind of half agree with where you're coming from, they just don't add, unless the keeper gets booked, they actually don't add any time on for it. And you can see the ref never stops his whistle or stops his clock, sorry.
No. My argument is with the referee, Tony. Look, whoever decides, I've always been an advocate of taking time away from the officials. Have a clock on the side, stop it when a ball goes out of play. Go to 30-minute halves if you have to, because it is such a subjective thing. And you saw yesterday their goalkeeper, every time he got a kick, there's meant to be, what is it? The 7-second rule when he's got the ball in his hands.
I don't know why they scrapped that rule. I really don't.
It was never instigated, was it? It was always a rule, but nobody ever got charged.
I think they had the first year they gave a big spate of them in hope that it would stop. It seemed like they were giving one a week, and then just never again.
Okay, so let's move on anyway. Arsenal fans are cunts, VAR's shit, time wasting gets on me fucking nerves. It's good to have Tez back. Anything else on that game? I guess we should do our 3-2-1s.
I don't want to harp on this quickly, but just if someone could just explain to me, and I've always said that Aubameyang on the left side is not it's not his strongest position. and Tony, I think you've said the same as well. But I thought he was a little bit not himself and whatnot, boys. What's the last couple of weeks been with the Aubameyang?
I think you're being polite. I think he was shit. I thought Lacazette was shit as well.
I was trying to be a little bit polite.
I don't know why.
Get any hate.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Look, call a spade a spade. If he was shit, I'll call him shit. I really like Aubameyang. I think he's our best player by an absolute distance. Everyone knows that. But he was shit, so I'm going to say he was shit. The last few weeks, Sheffield United, pretty anonymous, but not... I don't know. Yesterday, it just seemed bad. Sheffield United, he seemed anonymous because he didn't really get the ball. It was different kind of... He'd done nothing in both games, but in a sort of different way. Bournemouth, before that, we were just absolutely shy as a team and part of the bus. I think it's now his longest goal... It's only been 3 games, but I think it's his longest goal drought since he's been an Arsenal player.
Is it the system, Tony, or is it him?
I would say a bit of both. I think yesterday was him. Sheffield United was system. Yesterday we looked clueless. I mean, I was going to say this in our 3-2-1s, but our attacking system yesterday seemed to be give the ball to Pepe and hope. Like they were literally giving the ball with no support at times and like just looking at him going, "Oh, go on then." And it seemed silly. It was set pieces and Pepe might do something. And considering literally 6 days before he was our first sub, well not our first sub, but a first attacking sub off when the likes of Saka was on the pitch. And like people have been saying, he's not adapted well, he shouldn't even be starting. But 6 days later and 2 free kicks later, it's suddenly, give him the ball every time and just fucking hope he beats 6 players and gets a good crossing. It just, our attacking system yesterday was non-existent.
Okay.
So 3-2-1s.
Pepe for all of the reasons I just said.
3 for Pepe.
Gets my 3.
Yeah, actually, to be honest, I've got 3 for Pepe as well. Actually, sorry, no, I haven't. I've got 3 for Socrates. I thought he defended pretty well. He scored 2 good goals. He's been sort of the weak link in the back in a few games this year, and I just thought he had a really good game. 2 points. I've got Pepe. Who's your 2 go-to, Ches?
Socrates.
Okay, so you're there, Tony.
Yeah, I'm the same, and for all of the reasons you said.
So, can you find a point for anybody else?
Yeah, for me, and again, I hate doing this, but it seems like I'm doing it every week. Guendouzi, because he tried, and trying is the worst way you should ever get points, or ever get rated. But it seems like we have to at the moment, and also for having the presence of mind to have that rugby tackle, because for years I've gone fucking ballistic at Arsenal players not doing that, or Arsenal players just dangling a leg and the player can still carry on running. You're going to get booked either way, so make sure they don't get the ball. And
it was a fabulous rugby tackle. We should mention the rugby, shouldn't we?
I'm not sure if Tez is up to that.
No, let's just move on from rugby, boys.
Who'd your 1 point go to, Tez?
Oh, look, it was a toss-up between Guendouzi and David Luiz, and I've just gone Luiz because he got the goal. That's purely the only reason.
Well, mine's a toss-up between Guendouzi and Callum Chambers. And seeing you've given a point to Guendouzi, and I love Guendouzi, I'm going to give a point to Chambers for exactly the wrong reasons again, just because he tried too hard.
Yeah, just on that Guendouzi thing, do either of you think it was a red card? Because I've seen quite a lot of people say they think it was. I didn't think it was at all. And again, going back to that UREF app thing, 68% of fans disagreed that it was a yellow and thought it should have been a red.
Well, I think the argument was, it was relatively close to where I was sitting, and the Crystal Palace players were saying it was a red card, and they were saying, but it wasn't a clear. You can't have a clear goal scoring opportunity when you're 70 yards from goal, and that's the only reason. That's the only reason.
I was just about to say that.
It's the only reason it can be given as a red. It wasn't dangerous.
Professional foul.
Yeah, but it's only if it's a clear goal scoring opportunity.
Well, no, they're 2 separate things. There's professional foul and then denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity. I said exactly the same as you at the time when someone behind me said, I could see red. This was before the card come out. I said, there's no way it's denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity, which is the rule when it is 70, 80 yards out and the ball is going a little bit wide. Don't get me wrong, you would have had a one-on-one, but it's not an obvious opportunity. And then someone else actually outside the ground said to me, if anything, he's going to get sent off, or is it not a professional foul?
Well, I thought it was. I don't even think that it exists anymore. I think it's ungentlemanly conduct, which again is a booking. I think it's. I think they've changed that rule. I mean, I might be wrong. They change the rules all the fucking time. But I think it's clear goal scoring opportunities, and it obviously at 70 yards from goal, we know he was going to score, but they couldn't prove that. All right, look, let's get on to some of your questions. There's a lot of questions in today. Obviously, everyone's really wound up today. Is there anything else you want to say on the match before we move on? Anything else that's
I just quickly, clock in talk.blogspot. I did notice somebody did some ratings there. I was just trying to. I had it jumped up. Sorry, boys. Was it Lewis?
Liam,
was it?
Liam does the ratings,
And you can find them clockandtalk.blogspot. So I'm not going to harp on it too much, but I just wanted to have a quick look at his. And they always give Emery, so he gives Socrates the man of the match with a 7. So anyway, you can check them out there. And I know Tony goes the Who scored a bit too.
it's just getting up to check.
Yeah, actually Socrates got an 8 for the man of the match there as well. Granite got 6.8. So
he didn't have a bad game.
Well, to be honest, Schwinn messaged me last night and he said, I've seen the video, but I didn't watch the game. I've only seen what's on Twitter. He said, did Granite really play that bad? He didn't play bad at all. And look, Schwinn really isn't a Xhaka fan. He probably holds back a little bit on here because of Tez. I'm scared of him. But and Schwinn messaged me last night and he said, if it's true what you're saying, that he didn't play bad at all, and I have no reason not to believe you, our fans are complete idiots. I was like, well, yeah, that one.
Well, it shocked me when I opened that just before the pod and seen that on Who Scored on 6.8. I went I didn't think, but I didn't want to be a bit biased as well, so that's why I always just.
Well, it was a tactical substitution, wasn't it? It was bringing on an attacker for a midfielder, so you had a choice of taking him off or Guendouzi off, and that was the choice.
I was going to be one of them, but I don't know what Saka's like. I haven't seen much of him, so.
Well, he was bringing on a goal scoring threat. He's played as an attacking left-sided player, and he's played very well. He's played very well. But it was a last 20-minute impact substitution or last 30-minute impact substitution. Well, someone had to go.
For me, it should have been Ceballos. I think Ceballos would have been the sub to take off, but I don't think it was a right sub. But it's not a horrible, drastically wrong. I do think he was pandering to the crowd.
But if he'd have taken Ceballos off, then that's our creativity gone. If he'd have taken Ceballos off and brought Ozil on, but Ozil wasn't in the squad.
But the thing is, he brought Saka on and then moved Ceballos very deep into Xhaka's role. So he took our creativity off anyway without taking him off.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go on to the
Saka on, Tone?
Sorry?
Would you have brought Saka on?
Look, I probably would have brought Martinelli on over Saka just because of the goal threat, but it's not a bad sub in bringing him on. I just think the wrong person went off.
Okay. No. Sorry, don't go ahead, mate.
I'm only saying let's get the questions because we've already been going for well over an hour, and we had quite a lot of questions in because everyone's fucking annoyed this week. There's a lot of statements along with the questions. I'll whiz through these. I'm not going to. Thanks to everyone who takes the time and the trouble to write these and send them in. But obviously, we've covered a lot of this stuff already in the first hour, so. Let's have a look. Sushant, as usual, is a nice regular here. Just a statement on Xhaka. Xhaka was wrong yesterday, but so were the fans for constantly targeting him, giving him death threats, abusing his wife. He doesn't pick himself in the team. He didn't make himself captain. We need to develop a reconciliation process amongst fans and players.
Well said. Said.
Sushant, I mean, I think you just echoed pretty much where we are on this pod. You also say, did VAR rob us of the third goal? Yes, of course it fucking did. Here's a new one. We haven't talked about this. What did we make of Kieran Tierney's performance as a left back?
First time I seen him, I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah.
Nothing to say, nothing good, nothing bad. He couple of nice little crosses in. I'd seen him against was it Victoria? That was probably the first time I seen him, and I liked him a bit there. I thought, oh, he's all right, this kid.
Yeah, if Tez hasn't seen him much, that was his worst game for us. He was still good. He was still better than I expected. Kolasinac put a couple of good deliveries in. One where Hennessy made a very good save from Lacazette was from a Tierney delivery. But this isn't a criticism, so I still think he was good, but I think that was his worst game for us so far.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty poor on Thursday night as well, because I said he was the best left-back I've seen since Ashley Cole. And then I thought he was pretty poor against Vittoria. And then I thought he was okay. He put some good deliveries in. It's just nice to have somebody with some energy going up and down that side, isn't it?
I prefer him over Kolasinac, and I watched... Did Kolasinac start at Watford?
Yeah, I think he started.
Sheffield United, or one
that
of the two.
That was Tierney's first start. So yeah.
And I thought to myself, it's Tierney. I think he was on the bench at the time. I wasn't even in the starting lineup, and
I think you're thinking of Sheffield United.
Might have been Sheffield United, yeah. And,
only on Monday and games by then.
Do we want to touch on?
Yeah, because I didn't know what was going on.
Do we want to touch on Mesut Ozil this week?
Yeah, don't we?
I just want to say, what the fuck's going on?
Well, let's say Halls of Marble says, is Ozil being punished for an undisclosed indiscretion? How is he being allowed to train but not even feature in the squads?
It's just crazy.
It's crazy.
I don't want to talk about the money that he's been paid and stuff, but just to have a player. And look, I'm not, as Schwinn always, I play a bit of devil's advocate with Schwinn as well, and because I know he loves Ozil so much, and I just love taking the piss out of Schwinn. But he's a creative player who can give you something more, and he can give you another option. And not even have him on the bench, Emery must have fucking, I don't know, must have got off the Christmas card list last year or something. There's something going on there. I seen an interview, a journo asked Emery about Ozil and how come your top paid player doesn't even feature, and he said, no, we're not talk about that now. And I thought, you don't even want to discuss it. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I mean, Tone, I'm sure we've talked about Ozil so much in the last few weeks. Is there anything? Yeah, I thought there was a sea change yesterday. There was the Xhaka incident with a crowd, and then about 70 minutes in, it seemed like the majority of the crowd were singing Ozil's song, and I haven't heard that for a while. I mean, obviously you hear it when he's playing and when he's done something good, but I thought there was a big change there yesterday when the whole crowd just were making a point. Where the fuck is he?
Yeah, I mean, it happened on Thursday, but yesterday was more of the ground and a lot more sustained as well. It seemed to go on for quite a while. I think that pretty much everyone wants Emery out at the moment. I know you don't really, but in general, I'd say probably 80% of the fans seem to want Emery out. And Xhaka's become the boo boy for the Emery. He's become the Emery's man on the pitch by being captain and playing every week. And he's getting the hate that's probably partially directed at Emery. And Ozil, even people that hated him, has become the opposite. So not the Antichrist, well, just Christ, I guess, if you're not the Antichrist. and it's the opposite because they don't want Emery there, and it's Emery and Ozil. I mean, Emery's picked a fight with Ozil, it seems. People that don't even like Ozil are cheering his name just because it seems like that's the way to get Emery out. That we always say people become better when they're not playing, especially when things ain't going well. And don't get me wrong, I want to see him back in the team, but I think a lot of that cheering yesterday was more anti-Emery than it was pro-Ozil, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was. It seemed to be a sea change there yesterday. The crowd of when there was a lot in the Wenger in and out era. There was a point, I think I did a podcast at the time, I called it Tipping Point, where there was suddenly just a time where even those who were really loyal to Wenger suddenly just went, oh, fuck it, I've had enough. I just can't be doing with the civil war at the club. And it felt a little bit like that yesterday, is that there was just a lot of people there yesterday that are just unhappy. And it was interesting as well because... Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to ask you, because you talk about Emery out, and there's been a lot of talk about the last 5 or 6 weeks about Emery out. Has he actually done enough to be an Emery out? Like, we're sitting in 5th, You know, you look at Manchester United and Tottenham, and I can almost understand why their managers are under pressure. Are we jumping the gun a bit too early?
Look, Tez, I'm with you. Tez, look, Tez, I keep saying all along, I've been saying ask me at Christmas, because I think that gives him a fair. He's got a new squad this year. We've changed pretty much our whole team over 18 months. He's potentially got 3 of his best 4 defenders not yet playing for the side, or only just starting to play for the side. However, there's the argument against it is that we're not seeing anything we're just not playing any good football. We're just dull to watch, and we're scraping victories by the odd goal. I'm still there. My position hasn't changed. Support the fucking club, support the players, support the manager. We can't change these things. You know, do you think the club are going to listen to the supporter base? The management will look at results, and they'll look at where we are, and they'll look at the future, and they'll make a decision on it. So in that meantime, we are 5th in the fucking league. We're above Manchester United. We're above fucking Tottenham. Get behind a fucking team and support them. Very simple. But Tony, you can give the opposite.
I kind of disagree with you there, and I think especially match-going fans can change these things. And I think it's kind of what we went on to when we were speaking about self-entitled people earlier. They feel like they were successful in getting Wenger out, so then they get their next player.
It took 3 years.
Huh?
It took 3 years.
I'm not saying but then Mustafi, and then he's been completely fucked off out of the team. And there's probably people before who I'm forgetting, and there'll be people again. And I don't think it's a nice thing, but I think that match-going fans, and fans on Twitter, to be fair, are feeling more and more powerful. In answer to Tez's question, has he done anything, or is it too early to be saying this? To be honest, I've been on board this train, this Emery out train, obviously not tweeting it and shit, but I've not wanted him as our manager for nearly a year now. So for me, I can't say it's too early. For me, it feels, or maybe it's just me being hopeful, it feels very near the end of him. I just think there's so much, it's so tilted there. There's more and more reports of the players not understanding what he wants.
Yeah, but you say that, but there's lots of reports come out this week from a lot of players saying how much they're behind him. You know, big interviews from players like Bellerin and stuff who are saying how much they support him and how much they're enjoying working under him. So, you know, there isn't it isn't one-sided.
It's as bad as a unanimous the other way, I think. As I said, this Xhaka stuff happening because he's his man on the pitch, essentially. I mean, whether people believe Ornstein or not, his report that apparently the board feel he's lost the dressing room, but they still want to keep him in the job. It just seems absolutely moronic. Again,
what if he gets a 3rd or 4th, Tony, and wins the Europa League? That's the only thing I think is. Are we going to be eating our own words?
I don't. My answer to that is I don't want to take that risk and find out. Of course, look, I'm going to go to the game and support whoever's playing, be it Xhaka, Mustafi, Ozil, Lacazette, Aubameyang. I'm going to support whoever's on the team. I'm going to support whoever's in the dugout. That doesn't mean I have to like them or have to think that they're going to be successful. My point of view is that we are not going to do them things under Emery, and I don't want us to risk finding out. I don't want us to get to the end of the season, come 5th, not win the Europa League, and go, now it's time to get rid of him. When, for me, I can say now I don't think he'll do them things. And it feels like, I don't know, I'm probably speaking for other people, it feels like a lot of people have that same opinion as me, is that they can't see him doing it under us.
Yeah, I get that totally, and I totally understand where a lot of people are coming from. I'm not usually on the fence, but I really am on the fence at the moment because I need a little bit more time to decide. You know, I'm not happy.
I'm not trying to change anyone else's view. I'm just sticking by mine, and I think.
Well, let me get back to the questions. Halls of Marble says, is Emery on borrowed time? What can he feasibly do to save it? I think that takes Tez's point. You know, I mean, what happens if we go on a winning run? If we start playing well, is it just too late for you? Have you just can't see it happening?
Look, yeah, both of them things. If we start winning and start playing well and looking like we know what we're doing, then he can bring it back. I can't see them things happening, and this is where my problem starts. And it's not based on the last 2 weeks. It's based on his whole time at the club. We don't know how he plays. He still doesn't know. Every criticism we've labelled at him over the last few weeks. So, I mean, we don't need to list through him again. Everyone knows.
Well, okay, Tony. I'm at the questions. I'm just taking these in the order that they arrived on.
Oh no, I'm not. I wasn't
No.
listen,
No. This is the point that this is the next one. It just happens to say, despite the draw, we've shown some improvement in our game. This is from Vishad, by the way. Despite the draw, we've shown some improvement in our game. Great fighting spirit. This team displayed signs that it is slowly coming together, which is a positive considering we could hit form during a crucial run of fixtures that we have until the 1st of January.
I can only assume that's sarcasm.
If we play Liverpool during the week.
Yeah, it's a cup game, though. I mean, literally.
Okay. I was going to say, what happens if you get beat 4 or 5-0 on Wednesday, or Thursday for you boys?
Well, the fan pressure ramps up. Look, it
goes up again, you know what I mean?
I feel sorry for him because if we win, it doesn't do him any favours. If we lose, it does him. The pressure ramps up even more. So this is a no-win game for Emery, and even as someone that is staunchly Emery out, I do appreciate that. But genuinely, Vishad's question, and I speak to Vishad a lot, so I'm not digging him out. I feel like he must be sarcastic because I know.
Do you know what? I've just seen his next question, so maybe you're right. I mean, that's what he says. He actually said this team displays signs that it is slowly coming together. Yeah,
no,
but
surely not.
I mean, the only way they're coming together is they'll have a wank at the same time.
His next question, Vishad's, why would the board, this is Vishad again, why would the board be reluctant to sack Emery immediately, given that he's had 18 months to figure out his players, as well as massive financial backing in the transfer market? Mourinho, Benitez or Allegri, who would be your ideal candidate to turn things around?
Jesus.
You can't get that's what I'm saying. You can't get two more opposite questions. He must have been being sarcastic at first, surely.
Yeah, Mourinho, Allegri, not Allegri. For me, I'm just never a fan of Allegri. Never have been. So it'd have to be Mourinho if I had to pick
Fuck off.
Mate, look.
Do you know, I've had enough of football this week. I've had enough of this fucking going. I've been going to fucking see Arsenal, either in the Emirates, for fucking longer than I care to remember. And I've always enjoyed it. It's been an excuse to get out of the house, get away from my wife, go and drink some beer, go and shout, go and scream, be tribal, get involved, sing my heart out, cry, get happy. It's everything. I go to football this week. I'm fucking watching decisions being made on a fucking screen while I'm standing around doing nothing, watching teams time waste, watching our captain getting booed off. Fucking hell, I've had enough of football this week. Fucking shit it was there this weekend. Fucking shit.
Beauty of it, mate. It might get better next week.
So now we're talking about getting rid of the manager. We're 5th in the fucking table. Let's just fucking support the fucking manager while he's there at the moment. Okay, Vishad just goes on to saying it was a key point. I don't want to keep going on to Vishad's questions.
He sounds like me before I had my heart attack.
Vishad says, would introducing Martinelli and Torreira would have been enough for us to win the game? Good point. I mean, bit of energy.
I like Martinelli.
I'm going to get shit for this because I was criticising quite a lot previously. I would have taken Lacazette off at half-time. I thought he just wasn't in the game at all. Didn't look his usual self. And I would have rang Martinelli on. I can't believe Lacazette played 90. I can't believe that Martinelli didn't play at all. I can't believe we only made 2 subs. I think because of the Xhaka stuff, Emery's got away with a lot of criticism about this game. I mean, he still got a lot, but a lot more than he would have done if the Xhaka stuff didn't happen. I don't know why. I don't know where Saka played when he came on.
Well, let's have some comments on Xhaka. This is from Sam Nicol. On reflection of the game, the feeling overall is sadness for me. I feel sorry that Xhaka has had to experience that from his fans. Sad for the fans at the game, treated to that performance and reactions from Xhaka, and sad about the performance of VAR. Give me some positives, please. Sorry, I've used them all. Sam, we're all sad as well. I'm really sad. Sad, annoyed, angry, fed up. Yeah. This is from Same Old Arsenal. Xhaka versus fans, only one winner. Emery versus Ozil, only one winner. This is Rioch versus Ian Wright all over again.
Said that last week, didn't we? And Tez, I don't know how much you used to listen. Tez, how long have I been saying that the Emery versus Ozil, there will only be one winner as long as we're playing shit? I said it the day he started dropping him. It was like, I'm not trying to fucking tug my own cock, but that'll be later. But it was clear. Like, as long as you're playing shit, you can't omit these players. No one would give a fuck about Ozil if we was doing well. At 2-0 up yesterday, no one gave a fuck that Ozil weren't playing. The issue is when you're not creating anything and your most creative player, who is admittedly on a hell of a lot of money, is sitting at home, you are never going to win that battle.
Here's one on VAR. This is from that RC fella. VAR is still in its development phase, so things are bound to go wrong. I don't expect to see it working correctly for another 18 months, like the bunker system in the NRL. I'd like to see the referee initiate the VAR review instead of VAR just coming in over the top. Thoughts?
I don't know what the bunker system is. This is the one question I saw.
I was just about to say that, yeah. So the NRL, they decided to spend a shitload of money. It's costing them about 10 million or something a season. They've implemented a bunker system. So I think I may be wrong. I think it's ex-players who they've chosen. So there might be a panel of each game. So, you've got, I think, 7 games, either 5 or 7 games in the NRL. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So in every game of the NRL, you've got a bunker system where there might be 3 ex-players, and when it goes to the VAR, it goes to the bunker, and they rule, the 3 ex-players rule, and then it goes back. It's pretty quick turnaround, but as I said to you before with the NRL, all we seem to talk about is VAR. It's not VAR that's stuffing up. It's the rules.
That 3 men in a bunker is like my 10 blokes in a pub thing, isn't it? Just have 10 blokes in a pub with a button. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Back to the question, that RC fella, I would like to say initiated by the captains. I know Tony disagrees with me, but let's have one objection. You can have one, each team can have one chance to object against the decision like they do in cricket. And they have to say what it's for as well. I mean, that's a key one as well. Because yesterday, I said they just appealed against something for we've got an appeal left. There's 2 minutes to go. Let's just appeal.
I like that idea. But I'd go back to not the captain. I'd go back to the manager. So he might throw a white towel in or whatever to say, yeah, I'm going to use my one.
See, you just want to see Emery throw a white towel in, don't you?
but whatever it is, and I'd like to. I think that'd be good, but I would think it'd have to be the manager, not the captain.
This is from Siddhartha Sidhu. Xhaka should have just left the pitch quietly, but I kind of feel bad for him, to be honest. The manager system doesn't help him. Whether Xhaka is good enough for us or not is debatable, but fans booing him week in and week out and posting death threats on his Instagram doesn't help the player. I think we all agree with you there. MAA, can I just say how good a manager Chris Wilder is? He deserves a statue. What the fuck's that got to do with the Clock and Talk podcast?
We record after they beat us. Yeah, I don't know.
He's an odd man, that MAA gunner. Like, fucking mate.
I don't say. We've probably got another question.
That RC fella again. In my opinion, I think the team is really struggling to move the ball from back to front. Assuming Emery remains as coach into the new year, what system and players should he use to improve the way we move the ball from our defensive third into the attacking third? Mesut Ozil?
Well, yeah. Look, again, it doesn't have to be Ozil. He's the best person for it. We need someone in them 10 spaces because, as I said earlier, all 3 of our midfielders are progressive passers, but they have no one to progress the play to. Okay,
this is from Van Life Guna. Would you have Freddie Ljungberg until the end of the season? Tez?
Not yet. Look, obviously he's going to be the next. I feel he's probably going to be the next manager, but I feel your timing's got to be a little bit right. Like, I don't want to see him get handed this team and all of a sudden, look, it can go one or two ways. What if he loses your first 5 games? He's all going to be Freddie out?
Of course they will.
if you're going to give it to Freddie, start him off in the off season and let him build his own way and tailor the team how he wants it, and if he wants to remove Ozil and things like. I don't like this swapping managers midway through no man's land. Like, it's not even what are we 2 months out of a transfer window, 2.5 months or something. So I just, if you go between now and there's lots of games in December and he loses all them games, everyone's going to be going, oh, we should have kept Emery.
Well, I don't know if they will, be fair. There's more on this. What does Emery, this is MAA again, what does Emery have to do to be sacked? I know Tony doesn't like comparing him to Wenger, but if Wenger had the season Emery has been having with all these situations, he'd be fucked. Tony, do you want to take that?
I don't know. Look, for me, I think Emery's nearly out the door. I can't see how he isn't. There's player divides. The fans are toxic again.
It was an interesting one yesterday from a management point of view of the club. The Cronkies, the LA Rams were in town, so
Stan went to
the Rams, and Josh came to the Arsenal. And he would have seen all of that, wouldn't he? He would have felt the abuse for Emery. He would have felt the abuse for Xhaka. What do you reckon? What Josh made of yesterday?
Well, I mean, by all accounts, Stan basically has handed over the reins to the club to him. So, I mean, I've seen people moan that Stan wasn't there, but if Josh is running the show, then there's no real need for Stan to be there.
No, absolutely. It's nice that Josh has taken some interest.
Your point, I'm just correcting the point I've seen. I can't see how Josh can take that positively. Yesterday was so bad. I think that's probably as bad as a lot of or worse than a lot of home games were in the Wenger era. Like even when it was peak, like Wenger out, I don't think there was as many games as bad as that for toxicity. Is that a word? Or how toxic it was.
Well, Hakan Larson says the same thing. He says, I think Emery's in deep shit, but the club can't say that kind of thing in public. What was worse, our current situation or just before Wenger left? I mean, they're both toxic, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean...
he had a 2-year contract. So do you think the club are just buying their time? Like, why would you... you talk about finances and things. What have we got, 6 months to the end of the season?
Well, there's been reports that Ornstein has now reported that he didn't have a 2-year contract. He had a 3-year contract.
Okay.
But I mean, still, for me, it comes down to I don't believe we will make Champions League under him. So if you don't, you lose about 80 million, and apparently the fee to sack him would be 6 million. That's what you've got to play with. If they believe that he can make it, I just think that the fans getting worse and worse, it will make it even less likely. The dividing players, I don't know if there's a question on this. I'm just going to say it. Apparently he's asked the players to do another poll over whether Xhaka keeps the captaincy. That doesn't help. It really doesn't, because again, it shows a lack of leadership, of decision making. We all know there's a story about he rolled a dice to pick his team at, I think it was Almeria. It's just getting like, well, what do you actually do? You don't make this. You seem to have made one decision, and that is that Mesut Ozil was allowed nowhere near your team. Apart from that, you don't actually seem to have a proactive. You don't. He doesn't seem strong enough. He seems like a very weak character.
You say that. I mean, look, I don't want to just defend him for the sake of defending him, and I had the next question ready to go, but I can't just let those things drop. Okay, so you say his only thing he's done is that he's not playing Ozil, but look how players like Guendouzi have come from nowhere to become really good players. There's Lacazette was pretty poor in his first year, and he's improved incredibly under Emery. Bellerin, before his injury, was having 2 years the last 2 years under Wenger, he was going downhill, and then suddenly he's improved. We've got rid of some of that shit, in the defence.
I wasn't talking about players' abilities. I was talking about in terms of strength of character, of having something and sticking by it. He started off, I want to press high. We pressed really high for 2 weeks. It was absolute shit. He changed it. We started off with a high defensive line. He changed it. I wasn't talking about player ability at all. His conviction of character comes across as very, very weak. Everything he said he's going to do, he's either done and abandoned very quickly or just not done it at all. I agree with you on what you've said about players. I just think he comes across as a very, very weak man. And the only decision that he's made that he seems to stood by is the Ozil one. That's what I meant. I wasn't talking about, obviously.
He does flip-flop around a bit. He flip-flops around a bit with decisions and tactics and starting lineups and players. And I couldn't tell you today after, halfway through the second season on what style Arsenal play.
What formation?
Are we an attacking team? Are we a defending team? Are we, like a Mourinho team, you know what you're going to get. You look at any other team out there, you possibly know what you're going to get from that manager. Someone tell me what's Arsenal, what style of football do we play?
This is from Brad, so I don't want to get back into VAR, but it was a good point. He said VAR didn't disallow the goal. The idiots using it did. It's a fair point.
I said Mike Dean's running the VAR, but apparently it was an Aussie.
The guy who runs VAR has never refed at Premier League level. His name is Jared something. He's only ever refed 11 games in his life, and
he's an A-League ref.
But I mean, that's just farcical. How can you have someone who's deemed not good enough to be in the league? Overall, I mean, look, for me, Atkinson's the worst ref in the league, apart from John Moss, who's just not fit enough. But how can you have someone who's deemed not good enough to be in the league overruling someone that is and has been deemed that for a long time? I know Brad's is quite a big defender of VAR, and if that's the what he's saying, it is obviously true. But then also, we can't praise VAR for a positive, because VAR's never made a positive decision either. It's the idiot that's controlling it. When it does well, people want to praise it, and when it does bad, if you want to say, oh, well, it's not VAR, it's the person controlling it, it's the same both ways. VAR is a computer, is a TV camera. It's not capable of making a decision. It doesn't watch it and analyse it and say yes or no.
This is from Srinath. In a percentage share, how much of our recent performances are down to either the quality of the players or bad management?
You tackle that, Tony, because I'm a little bit behind, mate.
Look, I'm maybe blind loyalty, maybe very stupid. I believe we have good players. So when things aren't going well, okay, you may have 1 or 2 days where you can say the players had an off day. When it's this sustained, you have to blame, for me, I have to blame the manager, the system, and the lack of how coherent they are and how different it is every week. So I don't know what that is in a number. I'm just going to say 80-20 for the sake of it, because
okay, so Tony says 80-20. Srinath, I think your question is nonsense, because you say the quality of our players, quality being a good word, or bad management being a negative word. So your question's skewed towards the answer, isn't it? Is it the quality of our players, or is it bad management? Fucking, we're fifth in the league. It ain't a disaster.
Darren, if we finish fucking fifth in the league or sixth in the league, I'm going to have to come back at you, though.
Yeah, because that's a disaster.
But I've said all along, mine hasn't changed. I said, ask me at Christmas. By Christmas, we've got another 10 games till Christmas, and I said this from 3, 4, 5 games ago, is by Christmas, we will really understand we should have Bellerin back. We should have Tierney in the side. We possibly will have Holding back. We should, fitness. We've got all of our players back. We've changed all of our players over the last 18 months, pretty much. He has got no excuses, our manager. I'm not defending the manager. I am saying that at Christmas, by Christmas, we will be able to look at where we are in the league table, and we'll be able to see if our performances have improved, so we can see what's trying to happen, and then we make the decision. That's what I'm saying. I'm not a big blind Emery fan. I am a realist that supports our club. We've given this manager a 2-year contract. He's just into his second year. At Christmas, we will have a good idea whether it's going.
I don't think he'll be there at Christmas.
Okay.
I just don't want to get to the end of the season. And Tony, it's just obviously, if you don't think he's going to be there at Christmas, but. I don't want to get to the end of the season and go, oh, shit, we finished third and won Europa League. Fuck, I've got to take everything back now. I'm like, that's my only worry.
I would be delighted to do that. I don't care. I'll have to be wrong. Please, I want to be wrong. I just don't think and can't foresee me being wrong. on this occasion.
This is from
Yeah, no.
Goulson Fan. If we push Ozil out, where should we invest the money? Too early to talk about January transfer window. Mike Harneyman. VAR is an utter joke, ruined the game and cost us 3 points. As for Xhaka, he should never play for the club again. Poor attitude. Should never have been made captain and should not be playing ahead of Torreira.
I was going to ask this earlier, but I thought there'd be a question on it. What do you two think the sanction on Xhaka should be? Because we spoke about it, but none of us have actually said this is what I think should happen.
Sorry, Darren. I was on mute. Look, for me, there has to be something. I know, and I said, you know, if you kick a dog so many times, it will eventually bite back. But if a dog bites you back, it's also got to be punished. I think at least a week's wage and maybe possibly stood down from captaincy, because you haven't set a good example for your team. I defended Granit, but I totally agree with what you boys said. He did bring it a lot on himself. He should have got off the field a lot quicker and not taken it to heart so much. So for me, there has to be some punishment, and I think, stripped from your captaincy and possibly a week's fine, a week's wages a fine. Maybe, I don't know, what would he be on a week? 120 or something?
Apparently, the rumour is 120. I don't have a clue if that's true.
Yeah, I don't know if that's too much, boys, or what with these players, but there has to be some type of fine from the club. Go on, Darren.
I would say potentially he won't play for the club again. I
Is that what you would do?
I would do as what? As Emery or as?
If it was what do you think the punishment should be?
I don't think it's so much a punishment. I think it's the situation is untenuous now. Is that Xhaka, I think, has decided he won't want to play for this club again.
So you think it's on Xhaka's side?
I think Xhaka will just.
So you think it's Granit?
I think Xhaka will just go, fuck them. Shit, I get week in, week out from them. The way they treat me, fuck them. I'll seek a move in January.
I think my initial reaction was definitely stripped of the captaincy. The issue comes if the players have voted for him to captaincy, and as I said earlier, he's their mate and whatnot. So it does make it slightly harder. For me, the natural reaction is stripping captaincy. I don't think it's interesting you say from Granit's side. I don't think that from the club side I've seen people call for it, but I don't think the club will completely chuck him out the window, because let's be honest, he's an asset with a value, and if you don't let him play anymore, then that value is dwindling. And
yeah, I think we've got one or two key examples that we don't really care about that.
Well, but then we hear of Nuko with Sanlehi and Vinay.
Yeah, what I'm saying is Mesut Ozil earns a lot more than Granit Xhaka, and we're quite happy for him.
I don't think Ozil's ever been a sellable asset. He's never had a value to us.
No, but it's the other way, isn't it? I mean, we could probably sell Granit Xhaka for 20 or 30 million in January.
Can we freeze him out and make it that obvious that he's not going to be in our plans? That's what I'm saying. It's interesting you said it from Xhaka's side. I hadn't even considered that, to be honest. I disagree with you, but it's not something I'd really thought about. But I don't think the club will bomb him out, and I think they probably would have already made a statement if they're going to do that. I think he will be stripped of captaincy.
Would you fine him, Tony?
Arsenal tend to make them do community work. It's but Arsenal in the community, so they make him visit a school or a hospital or some shit. So they'll probably make him do that. There might be a week or two's wages. I'm not sure on that, but I think stripped of captaincy, make him do community work, and then I think he'll be back at some point. Starting with away games.
I think he'll be back.
I think he'll play at Vitoria. And then
so you think he'll be suspended from a game or two?
No, I think he'll be dropped. I think he'll be dropped. I don't think they'll suspend him, but I think they'll ease him back in a Vitoria where it's not too many fans. They're not going to be too raucous, and then try and build from there. I think Liverpool's a bit too soon. Otherwise, I'd say he would have played at Liverpool. If Liverpool was in 2 weeks, I would have probably said there. Saying that, there's still going to be 6,000 fans. It's an increased allocation. But that's what I think will happen. Stripped of captaincy.
So it'll be more managing his psychology type to come back. You think
Yeah. I think managing back into the team and go from there. That's
fucking Darren. He'll never play for Arsenal again. Who is this player?
Why would he want to? Why would he want to? He's just been fucked off. He's just been fucked off by 60,000 people in a stadium, by Twitter, death threats. Do you know, he's got to come to a stage where he'll sit there and he'll go, do you know what? Why the fuck am I bothering? You know, why the fuck am I bothering?
I wonder what influence he would have on that, though.
I'm captain of my country. I am saleable. I bet his agent could get him a job anywhere in Europe. He's probably just thought, why the fuck am I going to bother playing for this fucking little fucking Spaniard who can't win a game for a crowd that fucking hate me? Why bother?
I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to force his way out in January. Absolutely, but I don't know if he'd try and do it now. I don't even know how you do that.
I just seem to be arguing with everyone tonight, and that's fine. Michael asked that question, shouldn't he? He was talking about Xhaka and should not be playing ahead of Torreira. Can I just say this? I'm a Torreira fan. I really like Torreira. I love him when he's on the pitch. He's got that aggressive attitude, really like him. But Torreira was good until Christmas last year. Then he got gradually worse and worse and worse until he wasn't picked in our side for the last month or so because he was rubbish. And now suddenly he's got good again because he hasn't played. The manager sees these players week in, week out. He knows their strengths. So stop saying Torreira's fucking great because he hasn't been great for a long time.
Again, it's what we've said a million times, that everyone becomes better when they're out of the team.
Yeah.
When the team's not doing well. When the team's doing well and you're out of the team, you're shit.
Sandeep says, fans have a right to show their displeasure, but Granit should not have been disrespectful to the fans. That's your view. Brad's, Liverpool away in the next game. Hakan Larsson, haven't heard from Hakan this week. Most people thought the starting 11 was decent enough. Agreed. A few changes like Torreira and Bellerin and people would be happy. 2 players will not change all of our play and the tactics. I don't think our best 11 would perform under Emery. What do you think?
I agree.
All right. Seeing it's coming up to midnight and it's I've missed that one. AFC PK says it's pretty well clear what needs to happen. Absolute rubbish. I think he's in the Emery outside. Tash Bailey, when would you want Emery sacked and when do you think he will be sacked?
I speak to Tash quite a lot. I think that, right, when would I want him sacked? About 9 months ago. When do I think he'll be sacked? Controversially, the international break in 2 weeks. During that break, which is a 2-week break.
Have we got another international break?
Yeah, it starts after Leicester. So we play Leicester on the 9th and then there's an I honestly believe if we don't beat Wolves, which on Saturday, I really can't see us beating Leicester. I think we'll lose at Leicester. So we're going into, imagine where we are now and going into 2 weeks' time and we've only got 1 more point. I really think that could be him out the door. Maybe it's wishful thinking because I don't want him there. But I think there's a very strong chance.
I agree with you, Tony. If it comes down to loss against Liverpool, what'd you say, Leicester, who else we got?
We got Wolves at home on Saturday and then Leicester away. I'm not really counting the Liverpool and Victoria games because you can't really show much relevance, really.
Yeah, I know, but when you got 1 foot out the door, as you say, and a lot of fans are at you already, you got the Granit thing going on, you got the Ozil thing going on, you've got, people are saying he's lost the dressing room. I get what you're saying with the Liverpool, but you lose 4-0 and the pressure's on.
As I said earlier, it's a terrible game for him because there's no winning, but there's a hell of a lot of losing. Because if he wins, no one cares. If he gets beat 0, it goes against him. I mean, he's also not helping himself. I don't know if any of you saw his interview after the game yesterday, saying, we improved because we lost this game last year. That just feels like fucking 2 fingers up to the fans.
Yeah, that's pretty dumb.
Question from AFC Jamie. Or James. Xhaka should never play for Arsenal again after his reaction, and maybe it's time to bring in Mourinho. Cunt. That was me. I think Emery has taken us as far as he can.
I don't think Mourinho's the answer. There was a question earlier, Allegri or Mourinho.
It depends. Sorry, Tez. Tez, can I just say, you say Mourinho's not the answer. It depends if the question is, who is the biggest cunt in football management? Then he's the answer.
Yeah, true. Look, I'm not an Allegri fan. I watched him at Juventus. I've seen lots of Juventus fans. I've got lots of Juventus mates who said, "Oh, fuck, he's a tinker man." You know, he's similar to Emery. He had a really, really good team at Juventus. But for me, he's just not the answer for Arsenal. We need a manager to kick a few of these players up the arse and, get some type of formation, some type of fucking plan happening. Like, at the moment, there's nothing happening. Like, it's just, we're flapping around. We just won that game. We just got the 3 points. Today we got the draw. We just need somebody to rebuild, I suppose. Emery type of has, you could say that he's rebuilt the club a little bit. Like, we've got some good players in Tierney. We've got Pepe in. We've, obviously, Emery's had a pretty good couple of windows, which really has surprised me. But who that person is, I don't know. Maybe Mourinho for a year, or 2 years, and then flick him on. I don't know.
Much to Darren's displeasure, he wouldn't be my first choice, but if I would take Emery on an 18-month contract or till the end of next season if he kept Freddie in the setup. Again, it wouldn't be my first choice, but if that was, I wouldn't be...
Sorry, you take who? You said Emery. Did you mean Mourinho?
Oh, sorry, Mourinho.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would take him on till the end of, not this season, next season. He can bring in his usual staff as long as he keeps Freddie in, and he has that 18-month or whatever it is, 20-month contract. I would take him. As I said, it wouldn't be my first choice, but I would do that.
Fuck. Honestly, I can't believe you. I can't believe your short memories. What a cunt that Mourinho is.
He is. But, yeah, he's our cunt. But, mate, love him or hate him, he's fucking good for 2 years.
No. He used to be good for 2 years. He's a bit like Wenger. The world's moved on. I just watched The Dark Tower. Anyone seen that movie? It's a Stephen King thing. The world has moved on. The world has moved on. Wenger couldn't hack it in the last 5 years of his management. Mourinho's been found out. Football's moved on. It's played differently.
United his first 2 years and then absolutely awful at the end. So I don't think he's ever been found out in his first 2 years. If you compare his third year at United, you could say his third year at United compares to his third year absolutely anywhere. It's been absolute wank. So I don't know. I think that it's moved on is at best unfounded.
Didn't he get him back in the Champions League in his first year?
He won 3. It was shit competition. He won the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, and the Europa League.
Yeah.
And came second with a very poor
This
squad.
is a question for Tony from Sandeep. Were they singing "Pack Your Bags, Emery" round at the Emirates Stadium?
No.
No, I didn't hear it anywhere. This is from FPL Canada. If we scrape into the top 4 playing the way we are, is that acceptable, or should the Arsenal make a change of manager regardless? Well, I think Tony wants a change of manager. I also agree that we should change that manager if we aren't playing, if we don't see any improvement in style. If we scrape our way into the top 4 because everybody else is shit and we're still playing like this, then I don't want to see Emery there. I'm just willing to give him a little bit more time.
No, over. Yeah, I'm like you a bit, Darren. Look, come the end of the season, we'll get 3rd or 4th. I'm probably going to be going, fucking, what's our style of football? That's what I keep asking myself. I don't know what we play.
Yeah, didn't enjoy the weekend. VAR, fucking time wasting and lack of Arsenal style. This is from Defence. If the freezing out of Ozil is driven from the top, why the mixed communications from the coach, management? Not training well. I think do you know what? It's midnight, and I don't want to talk about fucking Mesut Ozil anymore. We all think he should be back in the squad. I think we all think he should have been playing a bit more than he has, and let's just leave it at that.
Can I just?
Of course you can, Tez. Of course you can,
Sorry to cut you off, brother. I just want to make a bit of a positive here. Now, obviously, everybody knows I was in hospital and whatnot. And I don't know how many questions you got, but because you mentioned Ozil, I actually got a letter from Ozil wishing me all the best, obviously from Arsenal through Ozil. And he signed it to say he wished me all the best, get well. And Arsenal also sent over a little photo with them, with all the signatures of the team, a team photo and things like that. So I just thought I'd mention that. Like, he's obviously doing a bit of PR work in the background or something. I don't know, but it was good to get a little letter off him.
That's really nice, actually. Yeah, that is, and it is nice for you to tell us. Yeah, and I think he probably has got a bit of time on his hands.
It's still interesting they've rolled him out for the PR, isn't it? Considering
that's what, mate. I didn't expect it from Ozil, because I thought he hasn't played, but yet he's rolling out the PR stuff. So yeah, it did blow me away a little bit, though.
Right, a couple more on Hakan Larsson, all about VAR. I can see the word cunt a few times. Tony, why the flying fuck doesn't Atkinson look at the screen to see the so-called foul? He can't blindly just do what the VAR cunt is saying. He must check himself if he thinks it was a foul. I think you mentioned that already, haven't you, Tony?
Well, it's the way the Premier League are doing it, and they don't show it on the big screen, so you can't even see it by accident. I think a lot of people are confused because at Southampton, the who got sent off, Bertrand, they showed it on the big screen, and because it was the first game of the weekend, everyone was like, "Oh, is this the new way they're doing it? This is much better." Because apparently the Southampton fans saw him get a red card and were all sort of up in arms about it, and then they showed the decision, and they all went, "Yep, fair enough, red card." So everyone was like, "Oh, brilliant! This is how it's going to be now." And then Man City kicked off 12:30. So what? 12 hours later, and they had about 5 different VAR incidents that they weren't shown. So it seems like Southampton done it in absolute error, and everyone was all for it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. There's a question from Josh, or a statement from Josh, which just talks about what we've already talked about. I'm sure you guys will talk about this, but I've never seen a video arse fucking refereeing used in that way before. To me, it's re-refereeing the game, in my opinion. Chambers is fouled, he's pushed into another player, he does not move his leg and make contact, but yeah, look, we agree 100% with you, Josh. It's fucking nonsense. This is from Sandeep. Fans are blaming VAR and having a go at Xhaka. Second call is wrong, but if it was given, it would again have just papered over the cracks. The real issue is Emery. He needs to get the fuck out of our club. Today is Xhaka, next week it will be someone else. All right, Sandeep, I think you're quite clear on your position. This from Lewis Adams. Embarrassed to be a gooner. To applaud your player off is a disgrace. Couldn't agree with you more. I mean,
that's what I was saying, Tony. That's what I was saying about I noticed that maybe I was reading the question thread, but I was going to
say, this question thread seems really kind of not pro Xhaka, but on his side. And I've seen on Twitter hasn't been. There's been a few that have been like this, but in general, Twitter's been behead him, send him back to somewhere, throw him off the planet Earth. But yeah, this question thread's been quite.
Maybe I just flicked through the question thread, and that's where I got it from.
All right, well, this is the last question. I finally got to the end of them. We do try to use all your questions, as you know, in this show. Thanks ever so much for sending them in. This one is from Defence. Any insider scoop on Mourinho? I hate the cunt, but will gladly have him take over now. Wouldn't have dreamt of saying that a year or two back, but this is what Emery has done to us. Seriously, really believe Mourinho is a worthy candidate who will give us results. Oh, fucking
hell. As I said, for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've said my point on him, but I don't know if there's anything. I have no inside scoop. I don't know if there's anything from Arsenal's side. I think Mourinho is seriously flirting with the club. It could be completely innocent, but the fact that he's in the box the other day with his agent, in the director's box with his agent, and it could just be that it's a Portuguese team, but I think Mourinho's been quite complimentary about Arsenal, which seemingly come out of absolutely nowhere. I think he's massively flirting with us, but I don't know if anything's coming back. I don't know if he's showing a bit of skirt and if Arsenal are going for it or not. But
Tony, do you think that like Wenger obviously the club's distanced themselves a little bit, but do you think, they had a bit of a rivalry for a few years, so do you think they'd be, what do you think to Wenger, would he have a say? Or
no, I mean, I don't think Wenger would have a say, and I also you don't know how much of it is bravado, but it seems they've been at a few media events together and they speak quite well of each other. They may be forced to, and it may be PR to keep it all confidential. I think Wenger got that award recently. I don't know what it is, and he had that big gala dinner, and I think Mourinho was at that and spoke quite well about him, and he seems to have been doing that. I don't know if it's part of his charm offensive for Arsenal, because as I said, he's all of a sudden been really complimentary about Arsenal, and I don't know if this Wenger stuff is sort of going hand in hand in that. But again, you don't know how faked it is. But I don't think Wenger would have to say anyway, saying, "Oh, don't employ him because he's a cunt."
Yeah. Okay. I just thought that like Sir Alex Ferguson at Man U, he seems to have a bit of a say, but probably.
Yeah, but he's still actively employed.
Oh, okay.
He left, didn't he? So he left the job, and I think he was basically upstairs straight away in an unofficial capacity. He's still there every week. I mean, as far as I know, Wenger's not been to an Arsenal game since.
No, I did read that.
Every week in the director's box. So they might have said he was unemployed, but if he's sitting next to the chairman every week, it don't take a lot to have a nudge and say something, and it's going to be listened to because of who he is. Whereas Wenger's not really taken on that same sort of role.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Are you two finished singing up Mourinho's praises?
He's not my first choice, Darren, but look, I haven't really put much thought into who would be my choice. I haven't. Who was that guy who used to coach? Oh, he's back at Monaco now.
Dim.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. Only because of the young players, but you don't know. Is the grass greener on the other side? In this case, probably is. But who do you get? I don't know.
I said it last week. I'll say it again. I'll take my nan over him.
For those who don't know, this is the funeral march. VAR. Mourinho as the Arsenal manager. Season ticket for sale.
Oh, you're not going down that path, are you? Season ticket for sale.
Well, if Mourinho's our fucking manager and we keep having VAR, then I don't want to fucking go anymore.
You say that. There was 100% you would renew your season ticket. Because I say shit like that all the time, and I know I'm talking shit. I still say it. Like, I'm not going to do this, and then a week later I'm like, "Ooh, a ticket to a game, let's go." Like, I know you would do your season ticket, and your season ticket's in a good seat anyway. So if you don't, I'll take it.
I honestly hate Mourinho more than life itself. Can't believe you're even entertaining the thought of him being manager of a great football club.
Who would you just entertain us for a minute, Darren? Who would you, if Emery was to go, who would you like to step in?
Do you know what? We're sort of we've got a really good young side. I'd like to go somewhere off the wall. Let's go to Sean Dyche or Eddie Howe or is the guy who's at is it Dortmund now, the young manager? Yeah, let's go for someone with some ideas. I would hate the thought of Allegri. I'd hate the thought of who's the other? Who's the Dutch guy that always gets wheeled around when we're talking about managers?
Oh, bloody
LVG, Van Gaal.
Yeah, Van Gaal.
No, the other one, managing in Germany at the moment.
Homer.
Yeah, no. Oh, fuck. Fat, old. Might as well have fucking Sam Allardyce in charge.
Hiddink.
Hiddink, yeah.
Who are you thinking of?
Good Hiddink.
Oh,
we have the same ones just get wheeled around again and again. Do you know what? And I can understand that if you want to get some, you might as well have Wenger back. You might as well have Wenger back. I heard that the other week. I heard that at the football yesterday. Why can't we get Wenger back? Let's go and try something new. There's some great young managers about. I'd like to try something new.
If they were to sack him as Tony says at the international break, and we go through a bad bit of shit in the next couple of weeks, do you bring in and you think Tony and same here, Darren, is an interim manager, someone like I don't know, an ex-player or somebody there? There's a couple of them managing.
I think experienced head for 18 months if they can get them to agree to it. But that's me who's convinced that Freddie's being primed for the role. I could be completely wrong on that, but I've been convinced of it for a long time. so I'm not going to change my tune now. If that's not the case, then they can go for someone who they can give a bit longer and allow a project to. But I think that because Freddie's being set up for that role, in my opinion, it will be someone that can steady the ship for 18 months, get us solid again, keep Freddie on board so he can carry on learning on the job sort of thing, and then ready to take over. And I think it will be a condition of anyone that comes in, regardless if they're seen as a long-term or short-term, that Freddie stays as in. I mean, he's technically not the number 2 at the moment, but he's doing all the jobs of a number 2. And I think that will be a condition of any employment if Emery is to go. I argue, I don't think Emery wants him there really, but I think that's a condition that they have to, that someone in the club has put in.
We're ruling out Arteta.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know if you saw it actually. Ornstein released a list of 8 people that he said were interviewed for the job this morning, and it was, I think, Vieira, Arteta, and Omri were on it. It was all them sort of people. But I said at the time, and I'll say it again, my friend is Omri's business partner, and he told me Omri told him at the time it was never ever a possibility. So I don't know how wrong Ornstein's list is, or if Omri's lied to my friend who's his business partner. But the list was all, I mean, Allegri was on it, but it was mainly sort of younger managers.
Isn't that a weird one? I mean, I remember being asked on my podcast a year back who would be the better manager, Vieira or Omri. I had no confidence that Omri would be a good manager. He's a prima donna as a player and possibly the best player I've ever seen in my years of watching Arsenal. But nothing strikes me about him as being a good manager. Vieira was a far better manager on the pitch, and neither of them are setting the world alight, are they?
No, I mean, I always think that great players don't make good managers, because a lot of the stuff they can just do. So they expect their players like, oh, why can't you just bend it in from that angle every time?
But at least Vieira had the mentality to command respect.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think Vieira would be better or will be better than Omri. But I just think in general, great players don't make good managers. I mean, there's a very small list of players that you truly consider great that have gone on to have a good managerial career.
Yeah. Right.
No,
I don't know about you, but I've had enough. Sorry?
I was going to say, we're wrapping this up.
I think we fucking should. No one's going to be listening now.
It used to be...
I stopped recording an hour ago.
Because Tez used to record at like 3 in the morning, it used to be him always wrapping it up. Now it's only like 10 a.m. for him. He's up for talking for another 5 hours.
I could go for another couple of hours, lads.
Well, I think you're going to have to put this out. If Schwinny's putting this one out, I think he's going to have to put it out in 2. We're at 2 1/4 hours, I think. So fuck that. And I ain't editing
Flick it over to Schwinn. He can upload it. Mate, it's been a pleasure, boys, to be back too.
Yeah, nice to hear your voice, Tez.
We'll see how we go, though. Anyway, we'll see how we go. I'll let you know if I'm back on every week or not.
Well, when this gets a load of shit, he'll do a Xhaka and fuck off for a few weeks.
Yeah, I'll go away for a while.
I know I've been sitting in the chair for a few weeks, but next month, when are we playing next? Are we Saturday?
Yeah.
If we do it Sunday, I can do it. If not Monday, I'm off to Portugal to see Arsenal.
I can do Sunday anyway.
Okay. So, everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for sending in your questions. I think you'll all join me in saying how great it is to have Tez back. And it's so really nice as well not to have Schwinn on.
Cheers, boys.
Tone, thanks, mate. And we'll talk to you all next Sunday. Come on, Arsenal!